Good afternoon, everybody. This is Eric Shadow Ops RC. Got part of my Nitro Buggy truck apart. By request by the Craft King #1, I'm going to show you a few things. These little Nitro Buggies aren't too complex, so you have two motor mounts that directly attach it to the aluminum skid plate / chassis, which everything is built off of the skid plate. And see the motor mounts bolt to the motor right here with two bolts, and then two bolts into the subframe, I guess you could call it. And then this gear right here, there's a clutch on the inside of this that when it revs, it expands and drives the gear, which then drives this. So there's two problems I had with this. First of all, I had a stripped screw head. How I got it out was I started out with a big bit to kind of hollow the head out, and then a little bit to kind of thin the head out. And with that, I was able to rock this back and forth because I was able to get the other screw out. I was able to pull it out without damaging the subframe. And then I had enough screw left that I was able to, with my multi-tool, thank you Uncle Sam from the Army, I was able to unscrew it. And then this screw is stripped because I thought I didn't have the gear mesh right. So this comes to problem number 2. I had been removing the motor when I needed to work on it via these bolts since I couldn't get the motor mounts off. Well, I forgot to Loctite them. So with this little nitro truck and my shockwave that I have, redline is 44,000 RPM. That's a lot of vibration, especially with solid metal motor mounts. So first of all, when you mount the motor mount on the chassis, you need to use thread lock compound. And then, because of my PTSD brain, I didn't Loctite these before the video yesterday, and so they popped loose, and the motor was doing this number on the motor mounts, and it ate the gear. So what I've done is I ordered the gear. It'll be here Saturday. I have the parts to fix this. What I'm going to show you real quick is it's called two different things: the center differential or transmission. I'll take this servo arm off real quick though, so give me a second here. Use my RC, not my sewing machine tools. So let's get this arm off, because this runs to the center diff, which controls the brake. Also, where is it? There's a spring mechanism that is ran. Oh, there. So we have this mechanism right here that screws on like this and goes to the carburetor. When you pull all the way back, it opens the carburetor. If you push forward on the trigger, it pulls this way, which pulls on this and pulls on that and runs your brake. So this thing only has one gear. It comes from the factory with two. Had problems with getting motors running. When I bought this used, there's something wrong with the carburetor, so I'm actually using the motor off my Shockwave because it has parts coming. This is what I put on over the weekend. It allows you to electronic start it, and I was able to get this thing to start like BAM! Instead of getting blisters all over my hands. I've got one of these coming for my other motor. I also have more gears for here to come. But let's take these off real quick, and I'll give you an idea of what the center differential looks like. So let's see here. Oh, there it is. So I have gotten aftermarket screws for this that are stainless steel. The stock ones are just painted black, probably just regular steel. I thought by going to this upgrade screw kit it'd be better, so the screws don't corrode. But the one thing I've ran into is, especially when it comes to the motor mounts, look at that, I have to use my actual Allen tool set. The head strip, extremely easy. So I have to use, oh, that's why I need the standard. I can get it to break loose with the standard. So if you buy one of these nitro cars from Red Cat, I'd say just stick with the stock screws. Yes, they're Phillips head, but these stainless steel ones strip extremely easy, which is annoying because Allens aren't supposed to strip as bad, so the screws aren't the greatest design. Once I get it, I just want to pull it off real quick so I can show you guys the damage. You have a front drive line that goes to the front axle, and then you have a rear drive line that goes to the rear axle, all from this. So it's a combination differential slash transmission. It's 4-wheel drive, but you really could call it all-wheel drive because the gear ratio is fixed, and that's the way all-wheel drives usually are, is that ratio is fixed. I'm no expert by any means on this stuff. I just have a very mechanical mind. And so I started out in 2015 with the Shockwave from Red Cat, which, like I said earlier, is in pieces. Here in the next month or two I'll have it up and running, and I'll have 2 electric nitro cars up and running. These Red Cat motors, they recommend running on 20% nitro, and the rest is methane. But there's oil because it's a 2-stroke motor. But unlike dirt bikes, which is what I rode growing up, you don't have to worry about pre-mixing or anything. That's kind of cool. They don't have to worry about pre-mixing. Sorry, this screw's being stubborn, guys, because the head's stripping on it. See, one was stripped on me as I was doing it with the correct tools. So, these nitro cars are pretty simple. I might do a video in the near future just showing you how simple the motors are. I mean, in 10 minutes you can have the motor completely apart, and each brand design engine's a little different. Like the motor that I've been using on this Vortex is a SH. On the Shockwave it's a SH18, but I've been using a VX18, which is same displacement. Shockwave comes with a VX16. I'm not the only one that had problems with that. It likes to snap crankshafts. So I bought this motor because it's more reliable and has more power. It's just over a cubic inch. Redline's 44,000 RPM, and it's peak horsepower at 40,000 RPM of 1 horsepower. So 1 cubic inch, 1 horsepower at 40,000 RPM. So here's the center diff. Your disc brake, this little arm, there's a little caliper in there that squeezes on that and keeps this from rotating. But this is the part I stripped yesterday. You can see it barely that the teeth are worn down from the motor because the motor was doing this number in the mounts. So I've got new gear coming. To replace the gear on the single speed transmission, you just pop these two gear screws, and there's some E-clips in here that you take out, but I can show you guys how to do that when I get the parts. But so that's the update on this. See, that's the rear drive line or dog bone, and then this is the front drive line or dog bone. Longer because the training is farther back. The subframe, the skid plate, and this upper stuff is the same as on the Shockwave. What's different is the suspension. This has pillow ball suspension, so it's got ball joints out here, and more control arms. The Shockwave is a little different. It's not as aggressive a suspension. So this is where I'm at. I can take this motor mount off. I'm just leaving it on until because you have to, the motor sits in this like this. You have to be able to move the motor side to side to get it to match up with the gears correctly, which I'll do when I get the parts. So so here's the throttle servo / brake servo, steering servo. Everything on this truck's upgradable. It already comes with the metal bodied